Hello and welcome to the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I'm Merlin Thompson. I'm the creator and founder of Teach Music 21C. It's a professional development program for music studio teachers where we believe the best way to create musical success is for teachers and students to build it together. And today I'd like to welcome once more Connie Bell. She's a member of our executive team. Connie, thanks so much for joining in today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And Connie, these days it seems like we're really in an era of transition where we're moving away from what we've had this very definite master apprentice approach that's been around for so long and that we've been very successful with for so long. And we're moving to something else. We're not exactly sure what it is. The question I get the most often from teachers is how do you get students to practice? That's the question people are asking me everywhere. And for me, it's like, oh, maybe it's time for us to change the question. So instead of asking, how do we get students to practice? The question could be, how do we create learning processes or musical journeys that match what students are looking for? Do you have any thoughts down that avenue today?
Yes, I have seen over the 40 years that I've taught such a difference in lives of young students. I remember when I was first starting, I had students who played sports. They had one practice a week, one game a week in their local area. Now they practice every night and sometimes Saturdays or dance or whatever other activity they're involved in. It takes a lot of their time out of the home, and then they travel for competitions or for things. So it's very different, the demand on students' time. And so we have to change. We cannot continue to say, but you have to do it this way. And we evolve as we teach. So yes, fitting the need of the student is it's the only way to help it work for them. Because if you're demanding, 20 hours a week of practice, which, they're not able to. So what do we do? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, how we recognize that practice is a really important part of what's going on. So practice is where, you get results and you get encouragement to keep on going. So there's an assumption that, if practice isn't happening, then there's the danger that those other things that we're looking for in terms of student progress and student interest may not happen. But then the question is, how do we nurture this practicing thing? What do we need to do? And it is this whole idea of accommodating students where they are. So the busy lifestyle, making sure that whatever we're trying to do is, I would say, sensitive to all of the restrictions that students are bringing to their music studies. But then it also involves a certain amount of what are we doing that students are interested in?
Yes. And I know you talked about on your previous podcast, group lessons, having lessons with groups of students at a time. I think that is very motivational for students if it's done correctly, where it involves the students playing with each other, doing all sorts of activities that give them that social the good social pressure to perform better, to come prepared, exciting to learn a new piece. I remind students and parents that a musical instrument practicing is unique because otherwise, let's say soccer, for instance, the parent will drive them to the soccer field and they will get instructions from a coach with all these other people. And then they'll practice right there with the coach. We don't practice with our students. We send them home. And so talking about practice during the lesson, giving them ways to do it. I've had students who are so busy that they say, I don't have time. I don't have time to practice. And then we look at their schedule and I say, where could you find 10 or 20 minutes a day just to get there? and do these 3 things. You have to sometimes break it down smaller to things that they can do and want to do and will do.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting thing and very individual for each student.
Yeah. So whereas previously we might have just said, this is the way to practice, find a way to get it to happen. Now it's more about, okay, what are the obstacles that you've got, or what are they? What's your real situation, and how do we make it work within this situation? The other thing that I really want to keep my eyes on is that big question of why we're doing this. And, I keep coming back to this idea of the lifelong music maker, the amateur music maker. I love this word amateur because it comes from Latin and French roots, which means one who loves to. So the amateur music maker is someone who loves to make music, got no desire to have a professional career. They're doing it for recreation. They're doing it to be part of a community. They might be they might be singing in a choir, or, playing in a band that maybe only meets once or twice a year. But nonetheless, that's an important part of their wellness and their well-being. So I like to always keep in mind, what am I doing in lessons right now? So let's just put the practicing thing to the side for a moment. What am I doing in lessons right now? And what are students doing at home that's kind of sowing the seeds for those things to take place in the future? So it's almost as if we've been so focused on practicing, as practicing is going to give us all the solutions to success. We've been so focused there that we maybe, if we just put it to the side for a while and focus on, what is it that would give us success for that lifelong interest in music making, we might come up with some different answers.
Yeah, I agree. I think I can see, as I look at some of my students who are now older and have families and are still in music. They're singing, they're accompanying, they've learned a different instrument. They keep music in their life, and they want their children to have music in their life. And when I look at them, I reflect and think, what was it that we did? And I've even asked some of them, what was it that made a difference? And they said 2 things. One is, you gave me the skills that I needed to play what I wanted to play, and you gave me the freedom to play what I want to play. So those 2 things they had to have. They couldn't just have freedom because they don't know the skill yet of how to do that piece, that kind of a passage or something. But if I wouldn't have given them the freedom, some of them have said it would have stifled my desire to keep going to the piano. So those 2 things have really stood out as I've reflected in teaching.
Yeah, it's just so interesting how those are 2 anchors in the Teach Music 21C certification program. So we talk about, we've got to pass on skills and knowledge. Students are coming to us for a reason. There are certain skills and knowledge they may never find on their own. But at the same time, if we're so focused on just handing off skills and knowledge, it becomes, well, like, whose journey is it? Is it the student's journey, or is it the teacher's journey? So we've got to do the skills and knowledge, but I like the way you pointed to this freedom aspect, which I also refer to it in terms of what's meaningful for students. And as soon as you ask the what's meaningful for students, you get, probably learning all those scales, chords, and arpeggios. There's a certain amount of usefulness to that, but how meaningful is it? So what I'm trying to say is that we've got to tie those 2 things together, like you've been saying. And it's the combination of both those things, not just focusing on what students are going to be practicing, but focusing on what's meaningful for them, and then making sure that the skills and knowledge we pass on match what the students are looking for in terms of what's meaningful for them as well.
Yes, very, very important. And to have students who are now older articulate that to me, it was very eye-opening as a teacher as well, to say, okay, I can do that. And you can, with each student, you zone in on what do they need today? What do they need right now? Where are they right now? what happened today, what happened this week. And sometimes they come in with an empty bucket. Sometimes they're full. And it's up to us as teachers to really watch for signals, to get the conversation going, and see where they are. Then you can decide what can be taught that day.
Yeah, for
Not
sure.
before they come, have your list.
Yeah, and I like the way, there's a certain amount of expertise that teachers develop over time. So no one teaches that first lesson whenever it occurred and got everything done that they wanted to get done. You teach the first lesson and it goes as well as it can. And so there's a certain amount of, what I say, teacher growth that occurs during those first maybe 3 to 4 years, where we're really finding out, okay, what do I need to do in order to be a teacher? So if you've had those first 3 or 4 years, which we're all focused on how to get students into practice, we can kind of say that, well, in order to get expertise with this new model of paying attention to skills and knowledge and freedom of students, or what's meaningful for students, it's probably going to take 2 to 3 years to acquire that expertise as well. So it's not like, oh, now I just need to check off this box and everything's going to be fine. No, it's more, now I've got to check off this box in terms of my awareness, but what am I going to do over the next period of time? Because I like to always keep in mind things do develop over time, but they don't develop overnight.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Very good. It does take time to sow seeds. It takes time to grow plants and reap a harvest.
Yeah.
Years. And, I had a mother ask me once, I want my child to learn to play the piano. How long is it going to take?
Right.
And she could like a couple of years, right? And I said, well, probably 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
So, that long? I said, yeah, it takes a long time to sow the seeds and to reap. So I agree. It's a long process. It's a long journey for a teacher as well as for a student. And it's exciting to see each one come in and try and zone in on what you can help them with that day.
So it looks like we're in an era where we're going to just put that focus on how do we get students practicing to the side for a while, because it's like we've taken that question as far as we can.
Yeah.
And now we're going to look at this other question: what can we do to get the learning processes in place that really reflect where students want to go? And that might be a good place to just wrap things up this morning, to give teachers the courage to set aside what you're really good at doing just for a moment and really look at what this other stuff might involve, and don't expect things to take place overnight. Don't be surprised if it gets messy every once in a while. There are jewels that will show up from time to time, jewels of excellence that you wouldn't have gotten without going to this messy place. So yeah, thanks so much, Connie, for joining in today. This has been great to chat with you. Thank
you. I love the word courage. It does take courage. Just go out of the box. Thank you.
So we're blasting out of the box. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm Merlin Thompson. I've been here today with Connie Bell. We're both from Teach Music 21C. And we're glad you were able to join in with us today. And we look forward to sharing more thoughts with you in the future. Connie, thanks so much for today.
Thank you. That was great.
And bye-bye to everybody. Oh, not bye-bye. Till the next time is probably more appropriate. We'll hope to see you the next time. Bye for now.